Hello, everybody. I am so excited.
You fucking moron. Oh my God.
To have my good friend John Kelly back on the show. He's an amazing guy, author, speaker, has his own podcast, retired Leo down in Florida. He's doing amazing things. John, what's up, man?
Brother.
We were just talking. We had a conversation. We should have
double dose of Pat Fitzgibbons this week.
Well, I was on your amazing show,
yes, sir.
About a week ago, and it was amazing. We dove deep.
A lot of great feedback from that, Pat.
There was, and for those of you who didn't listen, I encourage you to go to John's podcast and listen to it, because we talked about suicide. We scratched that. We beyond scratched that. We went deep into that discussion, and I'm glad we had it, brother, because it's a discussion, like you said in some of your posts. I mean, people don't talk about.
No. And we are experts at that. We are experts at avoiding the elephant in the room. Like, we don't talk about our relationships. We don't talk about our addictions, our use of alcohol to self-medicate. We don't talk about the life decisions that we make that ultimately bring us to some dark places, right?
Absolutely.
We don't talk about any of that, man.
And you hit on something right there where, you are at the point in your life right now. I'm talking about you, John. I'm just making a broad statement, whether you like it or not, because of decisions you made.
100%.
And I think some people don't realize that, or they don't want to accept it, but that's the reality.
Right.
And so, but the good thing is that, we live in such an amazing time. There's a lot of resources out there. You can turn it around, but ultimately it's up to the person. Right.
Yeah. I've always seen, there was it was a painting, a drawing of a bunch of ladders stacked on each other, laying horizontally.
Yeah.
And there's a dude on top of the stack trying to get over a wall. Right.
Yeah.
And you're just like, all the resources in the world, man, but if you don't utilize them properly, are for naught, right?
Absolutely.
And it was just, it was like one of those visuals that I was just like, look at that dumbass. He's standing on all these ladders laid horizontally. He just won't pick one of them up, man. Pick one of them up and lean it against a wall and you're over.
Yeah.
That's the phone call. That's somebody reaching out to you. We just, there's no lack of resources. There's no lack of people that care. And I don't buy into, man, this whole, I know people talk about stigma, man. It's a lot of bullshit, bro. I listen, for a grown man, listen, when you're younger, I think you give a shit what other people think of you. Right. We're overly, even into our 30s and maybe even 40s, man, where other people's opinions matter to you. And we say that they don't, but they ultimately do. Right. I spoke yesterday in Palm Beach Gardens. There were like 70 people in the room, Pat. It was an amazing thing. And I didn't close with this, but as I wind down, I say, hey, listen, you guys have been great and I've enjoyed my time with you. I said, but I want you to understand something. I don't give a shit what you think about me or what I've said. Right. And they all go, fuck, because they've had a whole day of John Kelly, man. So I said, you could never think as little of me as I thought of myself at the height of my destruction.
Yeah.
I said, so why do you give a fuck what other people think of you? And I'm telling you, half the room had, if I could have had that little light bulb emoji over their heads, I had guys pointing at me going, yes, right. And so, I mean, there were a lot of epiphanies that day. And they were
it's taken back your power, brother, is what it is.
Yeah.
And I'm at that place now. We're pretty tight and we talk a lot but I'm at a point right now where, I'm transparent. You're transparent. I mean, I don't care what people think, But I agree with you 100%. When I was younger, yeah, absolutely. Before I got into treatment, yes, I was worried because of, what are people going to think? My God.
Right.
But now I'm like, am I intentionally going out there trying to hurt people? No, I know you're not.
No.
But I don't give a shit. I
Think
don't
about
care.
this, Pat. Think about this. We are overly concerned about the opinions of people that have no standing in our lives.
Absolutely.
But the people whose opinions we should revere, whose opinions that should weigh heavily on our hearts, we don't give a shit about them.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
We've got it backwards.
Well, I mean, it's like the people that, tout that they have, not everybody, but, you get somebody who has like 30,000 followers on Instagram. I'm just pulling out a number.
Sure.
Do you engage with every one of those followers?
Yeah.
I would rather have 5 people that follow me that I'm engaged with, that are good connections.
Sure.
Than 30,000 of people I don't even know who the fuck they are.
Right.
But to go to your point, maybe that was a bad example. It
was actually, Pat, that was a horrible example.
You know what I mean?
You fucking lost me like halfway through that analogy, bro.
You know what I mean? Is we live in this digital age right now where we're so worried. Oh my God, we can't post this. What are people going to talk about? They're going to think about me. Oh my God, I can't offend anybody. Yes, you have to be courteous and know your crowd to an extent, but I think we've lost ourselves along the way where we're not being authentic.
No.
And because that's what people crave. Most people.
I think so.
Most people crave. And that's what I love about you, brother. You get out there and you tell it like it is. And
it's funny. You say that. So some of the feedback that I got, they didn't come up to me and said it, but the people that brought me in, they were like, this guy's fucking real.
Well, of course.
I go, how about that? I go, well, which brings the other point is, listen, if you're going to be part of the solution and you're going to stand in front of a room and purport to know, you got to be vulnerable and you got to share, and you've got to have walked the walk, man.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of times, I didn't want to go down that road, but there's a lot of people in this fucking space that, they did the job for a fucking day and now they're a fucking,
Absolutely. I hate that.
It's just fucking stop. Listen, do me a favor. Let's talk about something else, because that's not what we're about, or that's not what this is about.
Yeah. But I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. It's just,
but I think we've, as a collective, have kind of lost our way where I'm not saying everybody, but and I know I did, where I was worried, like I said before, about what other people thought. But I mean, it's just like we're chasing the dragon, man. We're chasing that unicorn, or we're so worried about what people think. And this winds back into, our men and women are brave people who are serving, whether it's cops, fire, whoever, that are worried. And if you're one of those people, you can't tell me that's BS. If you're lying to yourself, if you're not worried, because everybody gets there.
Right.
And they're so worried just because of the culture of law enforcement. I was there for a long time. You were there for a long time.
Yeah.
I think it's getting a little better, but I still think people are worried that, oh my God, what people are going to think about me. I'm going to get a card that says I can't carry a gun anymore.
Yeah. I think we do a really poor job of empowering and supporting each other. We have the capacity to do great things and to be really so much better. But there's this undercurrent of we don't care for each other the way
we eat our own.
Yeah, man. And it's, there's a bunch of people in this space that talk about leadership and the role leadership plays. Tom Rizzo's one of them. Travis Yates is another one of them, doing some great work, and trying to give examples of what, leadership is about: support, caring, empowering, and taking care of your people. But, we want our leaders to do that for us, but we won't do that for each other. at a very basic level, you know.
Why do you think that is, bro? You think it's just a culture? Do you think it's just you know, I don't know what it is. I've been racking my brain the last ever since I left the field.
This is what it is. I think if we can agree on some universal life assumptions that you're a product of your environment.
Absolutely.
Right? Okay. With that being said, I can't specifically point to when it happened, but when we stopped taking care of each other, when we stopped fostering, when we started to, this is it. I'm telling you right now, when we started to care more about the community than our people, we fucking lost. See, I remember when I got on in 91 in South Florida, our sheriff was Nick Navarro, running down the street with a gun in his hand, you know, fucking take all these people. He was making his own crack cocaine. He was an absolute fucking lunatic. Somebody would complain. He goes, my deputies. He would take reporters to fucking jail for asking a stupid question. You want to talk about support? If you were out there doing the job, don't worry about internal affairs. We'll take care. My command will take care. And like, if you were an IA investigator and you brought some discourtesy shit to a producer, you know, you would get in trouble. You know, the IA guy would get in trouble, right? And we had a great relationship with the community back then. We didn't have a community policing unit.
Yeah.
The fact that we were protecting good people, making neighborhoods safe, right? Doing our job, fucking locking up bad guys. There was no backpack program for kids and shit. You had little kids coming up to you and hugging you because you were making their community safer, not because you were fucking giving away hot dogs and shit. Right. Well, so there was somewhere along the way, the upper echelon, instead of enforcing the law and doing the tough work of making communities safe, we try to endear ourselves. Listen, we don't need to be loved. We need to be respected. I'll even say being feared isn't a bad thing. Who the hell else is going to do the job?
Yeah.
See, but we got away from that model. And so now we want to be loved. And how do we become loved? We play basketball with you in uniform, and we wash cars and mow yards. They had units fucking painting houses in District 5. The set team was painting fucking house. Stop. Get back. The set team should have been arresting the dopers that were watching them paint the fucking house.
Well, I think they're chasing headlines.
Dude,
you know, they're chasing headlines.
No, Pat, I disagree with you, brother, because it hasn't stopped. That philosophy hasn't stopped. We are going about building community. We're trying to build trust by not doing our jobs.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I mean, it's almost like we're so fatigued. We're so fatigued, and we're so fatigued with taking care of the community, and that's part of our jobs. But to your point, okay, I'm fatigued. I just got off a 12-hour shift. Now I'm being told I got to go fucking paint a house for somebody in the community, and I'm going to be back to work. Do you think some of this, and I'm just spitballing, but some of the origins of this kind of shift maybe were Rodney King? You know, I mean, just I guess you could make an argument for that, you know, back in the 90s, I mean, it's maybe, okay, shit, we got this technology now, it's out and about. I mean, maybe I'm just reaching for shit, but I'm trying to go back and try to pinpoint when trying to think to myself, when did it start to shift? And I remember, you know, Rodney King, and we all disagree with that. I mean, it was a horrible thing, but I wonder if that was kind of like the genesis of it, because it seemed to me you had all that stuff after that.
My problem with Rodney King is they didn't beat him hard enough, fast enough. It went on
too long. And
you read Stacey Kuhn's book, Presumed Guilty.
Yeah.
Stacey Kuhn was the sergeant on scene. Pat, acquitted at the state level. Went to trial, not guilty. The DOJ comes in and goes, "Oh no, this looked horrible. We're going to go federally on you now." But so So listen, Rodney King should have got it worse a lot sooner. And the fact that it was this protracted fucking beating was the optics were horrible.
Yeah.
That crew was brought to trial at the state level and they were found not guilty.
Well, then you had a subsequent riots and shit like that.
Well, right. Well, that's right. Because fucking, well, but so now we got to find you guilty because we don't want riots. Right. So that's all fucking bullshit. The problem is when we stop doing our job, law enforcement, right? Listen, I worked in some really less than desirable areas of Northwest Fort Lauderdale. I had a great relationship with the community. The only white guy in 10 square miles. And because you know what? Because I was locking up bad people and protecting good people.
Yeah.
And we have deviated from that formula. Like we don't enforce the law anymore. We are no longer the hammer. No. We walk around with white gloves and we jerk everybody off and we expect that's going to build trust. And what's happening, Pat, is
look what oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, brother.
No, we're just when we've departed dramatically from the role that we should play in society, and so if we're not enforcing the law, who is?
Well, I agree with you, and I mean, just think about it. And I know you saw this in the news a while back. I think it was like a week or two ago. Have you ever in your life, brother, in your law enforcement career, seen an entire police department pick up and quit all at once? This happened in Minnesota, I believe,
right?
A couple weeks ago. Whoever thought, let's rewind back the clocks a little bit, 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
Could you imagine waking up and seeing that in the fucking news? And this ties into your point where we're white gloving everything. We're not allowed to be cops anymore. Are there bad cops out there? Yes. But the overwhelming majority of police officers are good people. They're good men and women trying to do a job.
Exactly.
But I agree with you. We're not allowed to do a job. But it permeates, buddy. It permeates the highest level of government.
200%. Listen, when the DOJ comes out with tenets, mandates, we'll give you federal funding, but you need to adopt these tenets. It's a problem, because what you're saying is if you don't change the way you do business,
you're not going to get this.
You're not going to get the funding, which isn't going to allow you to hire officers. So everybody starts getting in line for the almighty dollar and being politically correct. And, you stop implementing aggressive, right? Listen, there's nothing wrong with being aggressive.
No.
There's nothing wrong with being proactive. There's nothing, but this is the thing. Now everybody's seeing, we've got people walking into retail establishments with fucking hockey bags,
LA,
clearing an aisle of cosmetics, doodads, and toiletries, and then walking out unchallenged, and nobody. They're going into Nordstrom and there and Walmart, Home Depot, and people are just loading shit in a cart and walking out.
And they're just filming
it. And so that's where we're at in society, because a very vocal minority has villainized law enforcement and proactive policing. And so cops aren't stupid, man. I'm going to be the next reel on CNN. Okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to park under that tree. I'm going to play Tetris or whatever the game is on my phone, and we'll respond to our calls for service and F everybody else. That's where we're at, because when we do have somebody, listen, I always thought this was hysterical. A command saying, you do everything 100% right. We've got your back. Well, fuck, brother. I don't need you to have my back if I do everything 100% right. I need you when I'm about 80% right.
Yeah, exactly.
I need you when I'm just a little bit out of bounds, right? I need you to have my back then. If I'm 100% right, I don't need your endorsement. Right. So we're so afraid and I hate painting with a broad brush, so I won't. There are some agency leaders out there that are doing a phenomenal job. They support their guys, they stand by their guys, and they believe in the rule of law. They believe in the presumption of innocence until an investigation is conducted, and they don't placate to the media or the public to fit in a political agenda.
Yeah.
But for as many good chiefs and sheriffs,
there's an equal amount of,
is an
not
equal
more
amount of spineless people filling roles of heads of departments. I won't call them leaders. And so you've got a rank and file going.
Do you think,
what do you want me to do?
Do you think that it's too late to course correct? Do you think we've gotten so far into this, it's gotten so ingrained? And what I mean about the culture now that you're talking about, that's permeated most departments and most agencies, not just local agencies. I'm talking state and federal too. The whole, law enforcement culture. Do you think it's too late? It's so ingrained. We're teaching the next generation of a law enforcement. Look, you have to, please, sir, put down the knife. I'm being dramatic, but you know what I mean?
Well, of course.
Do you think it's too late to course correct?
Absolutely not. And this is why, Pat. We've been in this game for a little bit. 30 years, not the longest, but everything is cyclical.
Yeah.
Right. And so the pendulum swings, man. And it always swings back and forth. I think when more, what's that saying? The difference between a Democrat and a Republican is a Democrat hasn't become a victim of crime yet. Right? There's some saying like that, right?
Yeah,
I probably butchered it. But my point is, when violence and thievery and when the wolf starts knocking on the doors of the people making decisions, when we hit low, where upper to middle class is afraid to go out at night, I think you're going to see a change in
but
that's
happened. That's happened.
Well, I don't know. Listen. I don't think it's happened to the extent that you think it has. I think the elite is still clean. I don't think the elite hasn't gotten bloodied yet.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it's going to take for the pendulum to swing back, for them to go, all right, fuck it. We tried this social experiment. We tried back in the Black Lives Matter movement, and we tried placating. We tried, looking the other way. We'll let you burn down fucking buildings. We won't charge you. It's not a big deal. But don't show up on the steps of the Capitol, or you're going to fucking prison. Listen, we've tried that experiment. It hasn't worked. And I think that the pendulum will swing back. And listen, you're talking about a group of people, 750,000 men and women, who give of themselves when there is nothing left to give. These are true patriots, fathers, mothers, people that believe in the very fiber of this country, of the core of good versus evil. And they put themselves out there every day for total strangers. And they need to be given the green light, man, to get back to doing the job without fear of being indicted or this or that. And I think once we get back to that time where the rule of law is upheld, I think we're back on track. And
I think you're in a good place, meaning Florida, because Florida, from my understanding, John, you lived there, you were a cop there for a long time. It's pretty pro-cop.
It's a pro-cop.
But what I guess my point in that is that, and I agree with you. There are good men and women out there, but everybody has a breaking point, brother. You know that. You're working in a Dem-run city. I hate to go political, but that's the point, or that's the truth. You're working in somewhere like fucking Portland or something like that. Not to disparage the people, men and women who live in Portland. I'm sure it's a beautiful place, but the PD's been getting shit on for years.
Right.
And I guess my point is there's a breaking point to, they get into it. They're selfless. You know that. You've been there. But there's a point where people are like, fuck it, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'll go work fucking.
And it may be an exercise in holding their breath, man. I don't know. You know, it's just like, listen, you don't need to work smart. Listen, society places demands on law enforcement. What do you want me doing? What do you want me to be a peacekeeper? You know, over years, right? We used to have pursuit policies, very liberal pursuit policies, right? You could chase somebody for a traffic violation, right? And then we started weighing, okay, well, the risk versus the reward. So you know what? We're going to limit, you know, you need to have a forcible felony. You got a forcible felony, you can chase. And then you know, the criteria kept reducing, right? Getting smaller on when you can be authorized to do this. And then we become innovative. We've got the pit, right? The pit maneuver. Well, if we can stop the pursuit before it starts, right? We got the Georgia trooper who pitted that guy that ran over a couple people.
In the truck. I was like,
fucking badass.
Shit.
That's great,
fucking
man,
jumping up there, pulled him out of the car
great.
or the truck.
Right. That's awesome.
Probably going to get sued, but for doing his job.
No, I don't. Yeah, he's going to be good, man. He's going to be good on that, right? Because there's enough people that, you know, are finally applauding and going, well, that looked like police work right there, man. How about that? And so he did a great job, right? But it's that, you know, situations we're a living, breathing profession that adapts and overcomes and constantly strives to meet the challenges and mandates placed upon it from people that don't know.
Exactly.
And so it's been, listen, two cops, if they were podcast 100 years ago, two cops like you and me would be having the same conversation about they don't let us ride our horses through downtown, you know, or some shit. I don't know. But you know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
This conversation has been going on since there have been good guys and bad guys. You know, hey, when we got, you know, in the 20s, you know, we got to outfit our guys with Tommy guns because the bad guys got Tommy guns. And so, you know, the guys are showing up with 5-shot revolvers getting fucking smoked by these gangs with machine guns.
We adapt.
So we had to adapt. And so, you know, it's just that cycle, man. Everything's very cyclic. And there's no doubt in my mind, we're going to get back to a time where the people demand enforcement of the law. And I know it's a little bleak right now, but I do believe we'll get back to that at some point.
And I agree with you. I mean, I deep down, I was just like, fuck, man. It's just like we've been in this rut, for lack of a better word, for a couple of years now. It's like, damn, man, how longer can our and I think it would be different, in my opinion, if it wasn't so. It didn't permeate everywhere, like even among politicians now. I mean, John, when you and I were growing up, what would have done if you saw a senator or a congressman on TV saying, yeah, we should defund the police? You would have been like, what the fuck? Yeah. Now it's like, it's just it's just an everyday topic.
Well, it's nonsense. You know,
but it's nonsense. But people it goes into the whole morale and attitude of cops now. I'm not saying everybody, but they hear this coming from so-called leaders.
Right.
And they're like the ones that are guarded by armed security, by the way.
Sure.
We need to defund the police. And it's just their cops are getting hit at it from all angles.
When I speak, when I speak to a room full of first responders, I say, this is what I remind them of. And I say, you got to do this every day, man. I go, as bad as you think you have it, there's always something to be grateful for.
Sure.
So you wake up with gratitude, right? Mm-hmm. You go to bed, maybe you write a few things down, and then you wake up and you reflect. And then you do something immediately for you. Be selfish, right? You work out, you read, you meditate, call our girl Paige and do some yoga, right? You do something, right? And
Paige Arnone.
Get on the line, man. Exactly. And then you remember this. I tell them that's serenity prayer.
Yeah.
God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. You recite that, right? You recite that to yourself, and that's the lens that you look through that day with. And so when there's some jerk off politician talking about some nonsense, you dismiss it.
Yeah.
You dismiss it immediately. It doesn't even register because, one, you don't have any control over it, and don't consume the limited amount of bandwidth that you have for that day with something that's going to drain and take away from you. Right? You've got to be present and aware enough and have the emotional intelligence enough to know not to go down that rabbit hole.
Absolutely.
So we don't even talk about it. Doesn't exist. Yeah. And then so we refocus and we start planning and implementing and scheduling things that we know are going to have a return on our investment. Time with friends, time with family. And I think that to be better cops, we need to think less about cop stuff and more about life stuff.
Yeah, I agree with that. And live in the present, live in the now.
Yes.
You know, I'm reading this book, Eckhart Tolle. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's amazing. Eckhart Tolle, I believe. And the power of now. And what he says, it just made me think when you were talking, brother, was all we have is the present. He says that, and he's got a shit ton of books out there. He says there's no time is an illusion. All we have is now. So John, when you wake up tomorrow, it's going to be present. It's going to be now.
Right. Okay.
It's not going to, he says the past is just a collection of when you were at a point in time and you were in the now, if that makes sense. I mean, this is some big brain shit, brother.
Right. Yeah.
But his point is, all right, yesterday's in the rearview mirror. It's not coming back. Tomorrow's not guaranteed. So live in the present, because really that's all we have is the present right now.
No, 100%.
And so it goes back to what you were saying is, as cops, start, breaking out of that myopic view of just looking at life through a law enforcement officer. I'm not saying, okay, when you're on the job, you need to look at it to keep you alive. I'm just saying bigger picture shit. Start looking at, don't look at the micro, look at the macro thing, and yeah, it's fucking amazing. But I agree with you. I mean, you have to start looking at the bigger things. And what you said is important. Take care of your fucking self.
Yeah. And I think that's, you and I talked about this quite a bit, man, is that if we don't take care of ourselves, right? And it needs to be not a catchphrase, right? If we don't truly invest in time and energy in the caring of ourselves, that over time period X, man, that slide that we all face can become an avalanche. And so the importance of self-care and doing all the things and exposing yourself to all the things that we all know are out there, but we won't do that follow-up. We won't do that next thing. Yeah, I heard yoga is really good for me. But I'm not
do it when I get some time.
I'm
it's on my to-do list.
Yeah, I heard cold plunging has got some amazing health benefits, and it's great for your mental resiliency. But yeah, I don't know about that. It's just, so I said yesterday in class, I go, this is going to sound weird, but stop talking and schedule it. Take action. Make it. See, this is what happens. If I say to you, Pat, we should get together next week and have a conversation, and I leave it like that, you and I are not getting together next week.
No, because we're not being proactive.
So if I say, hey, Pat, let's get together next week, here's the scheduling link. I have Friday open. How does that look for you? Yeah. And we lock in, and it's fucking done.
Yeah.
If I say to Nicole, hey, what do you want to do this weekend? I don't know. What do you want to, you know what happens? That fucking weekend goes by and we don't do anything. But I got to be deliberate. I got to go, there is a little art festival downtown Flagler. And I got tickets for it. And so we're going.
There you go.
We need to schedule. It sounds weird, but you got to schedule You won't miss a business meeting, but you'll miss your kid's fucking game.
Yeah.
Because we got to schedule it. We are being pulled in so many different directions.
I like that. That's a great idea.
Because Pat, I think once we commit to the schedule, once we say this is where I need to be at this time, we show up. You don't miss FHE meetings that they schedule for you.
No,
you're there. You'll fucking fly to Florida to be there because it's a fucking meeting you need to be at.
Yeah,
if we take that same approach with scheduling time with our friends and our family, and in doing things that add value to our life outside of work, if we adopt that same philosophy, like I'm banging Nicole tonight. It's on the schedule. I put it on the schedule. It has to happen.
I'm not editing that out.
No, it stays. But that's my point, man. Yeah. People have busy lives. And when you have a busy life, if that time isn't designated for something
absolutely
productive for you, it gets filled with something counterproductive.
Well, and I agree, especially like you said, we're in this 100 miles an hour life.
Yeah, man.
Especially with technology and distractions and all this other shit we got going on online, all the options. I agree with you. I mean, I have a calendar I live by.
Yeah.
And there's only so much. Remember when we were, at least with me, I can't speak for you, but I would be like, oh shit, I'll remember that. I don't need to write it down. Well, fuck.
Yeah. No.
Good luck with that shit now. I mean, I finally, I'm a little self-aware now going, I'm getting a little older. I can't remember what I did yesterday, let alone fucking what you told me 2 days ago.
Yep.
But so I agree with you. I mean, it's so important. I want to hit on something too, is especially with your relationships.
Yeah.
Putting it on the calendar. You mentioned, Nicole, spending time with your wife. It is so important to get that on the calendar, share the calendar with each other, obviously.
Yeah.
And it might seem, I know some of you think, well, that's fucking corny. No, it's not fucking corny, because like John said, psychologically, when you see something, instead of trying to remember it, you're more apt to do it. And you look up the science. That's just psychologically. If you see something on the calendar, you're like, oh, fuck. Instead of saying, oh, what was I supposed to do with my wife?
Yeah.
So it's powerful. I think,
we stack the odds against us. Listen, there are distractions abound, right? There is no shortage of things pulling you. Listen, life's going to happen. Shit's going to start coming from different directions. And so like I block off. I work the business in the morning, and I block off, Pat, from 9 to noon. That's my time.
That's
every
discipline.
day with Nicole. We go to the gym. We run errands. Every day from 9 to noon, I block off. And so unless I'm traveling for a conference or I'm teaching somewhere, my time every day is blocked off from 9 to noon. Guarantee time with Nicole. And I think that, it sounds like, well, I don't want to be so robotic. Not being robotic. You're dedicating time.
Well, and you tell me if I'm wrong. You don't think Nicole appreciates the hell out of that? Of course she does. I'm spend time with my husband, and I guarantee you, since she's used to it now, brother, you tell me if I'm wrong. Something messes with my John time. Shit, there's gonna be some hell to pay. There should be.
She doesn't schedule anything in the morning.
No, but what I'm saying is somebody tries
that's my point. She's protective of that time.
Yeah, exactly, and you should be.
No nail appointment at 10 o'clock.
But what we've gotten to in a society, brother, you tell me if I'm wrong. I'd love to hear your feedback. Is you're out to dinner, with your spouse, whoever it is, and you're sitting there across from each other at the restaurant, and hey, babe, I need to. Oh shit, I got to take this phone call. So when I go on dates, and I'm not perfect by any means, I'd put my phone away, put it on silent. And I'm not perfect.
Am I able to track your location?
No.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is, my point is that you and Nicole have that time. If you go out to dinner, brother, I guarantee you, I know you're not on the phone all the fucking time when you're there with your wife. Unless your kid calls you with an emergency.
Yeah. So it's funny that I'm so glad you brought this up. So we're not immune. Just because you and I are in a space, and life still happens to us. We're just regular people that every day try to be better today than we were yesterday, right? So the other night, Nicole and I sit down and watch a movie. She's on her phone and I'm fucking around with my phone. And I caught myself and I go, all right. I go, hey, Nicole. I go, this is what I'm going to do. I'm putting my phone up on the kitchen counter. It's away. Hey, it's Mr. Wallace. It's away. I go, will you be cool with that too? I go, because right now we're not, this is counterproductive, right?
Yeah.
We're supposed to be spending time enjoying each other's company, watching a movie. You're watching fucking TikTok videos on some lady who makes amazing meatballs. And, I'm looking about the next gig or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so we started doing that. Phones are out of our hands, up in the kitchen, away from us. And, we're going to commit that if we're going to spend this time together, that's what we do. I think it's important.
Yeah, it's very important. It's very important.
I think if we don't do that, we allow the possibility of distractions cutting in on that time that we've designated for our spouse or for our kids or for whatever.
And I know what maybe some people are thinking out there. I mean, I'm assuming, but I know maybe you are. So I'll talk to those people. Oh, we've been married a long time. So we've, there's really, what's there to talk about? Well, just because you've been married or in a relationship for a long time doesn't mean there's not any room for improvement. And once you go down that road of, to your point, John, you're sitting on the couch with your wife watching a movie and you're both on your phones. That's the new normal.
Yeah, Pat.
So why even have the fucking movie on?
Dude,
I want you to sit there with
that. Yeah, we're on autopilot, right? Oh, we're solid. We've been together for 25 years.
Well, what just happened? I was on my phone.
Yeah. Well, that's a microcosm of fucking life because you're so detached. I say this when I present, I say, when we stop doing the things that make us successful, we can't be shocked when things get sideways. When we stop for your relationship to be successful, during the courtship process, you were chasing it. When you were chasing it, you were making the person feel appreciated and you were thoughtful and you did all these things. And then once you caught it, man, you backed off a little bit subconsciously.
Yeah.
And then over a marriage, over time period X, people always say, oh, we fell out of love. I got to say bullshit. I call bullshit. What you did was you stopped caring.
Yeah.
You stopped putting in the effort.
Absolutely.
And when you stop putting in the effort, when you stop making people in your lives, kids or spouses, when you stop letting them know that they're appreciated, that's the first wedge when it comes to a breakup.
Yeah.
If you don't appreciate me, I'll find somebody that does. It's a basic human need, man. And we gloss over it all the time, Pat.
Yeah. And one of the most interesting analogies I heard over the years was, you have a regular marriage. Say it's you and Nicole. Okay. You have that relationship between you and your wife. The marriage is its own, it's like a child. It's its own being. It's a living, breathing, thing, entity that needs to get fed like a kid. So you have the relationship, you and your wife, but then we have this other relationship. We have this other identity or entity that needs to get fed. I just thought it was interesting. It just made me think about it. Where, you and Nicole have your relationship. It's a friendship. It's this type of relationship, but then the marriage is separate from that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I do.
It's just kind of, I remember hearing about that a long time ago, and I was like, well, that's kind of an interesting way of looking at it. But it's like you said, I mean, I agree with you wholeheartedly. That happened to me. I'll be totally honest. I was married twice and fell out of love. And I agree with you, brother. And this is what people don't, especially guys. Well, we just fell out of love. Fucking bullshit. You quit putting in the work to make it happen.
Man.
And I'm guilty of that.
Yeah, it's not easy to come to terms with that.
No, it's not easy to say, well, fuck, I had a role in this.
Right. Can I tell you? I think this might segue into something that I like to talk about. This profession, not this first responder profession, we don't do a great job nurturing and ensuring up our relationships at home.
No,
The profession is designed actually to pull you away. And this is where it becomes problematic on many levels.
Look at divorce rates.
Patrick, listen to this, right? So we know for every bad guy that takes a first responder's life, 2 to 3 commit suicide, right? We know that statistically, it's not, we're not being exaggerating statistics. Every bad guy that kills one of us, 2 to 3 take their own life. This is what we know. Of those 2 to 3, Pat, that take their own life, half of them are the result of a divorce or a breakup.
Oh yeah, I believe it. Yeah.
When we lose that foundation of support and resiliency that is our family and our spouse, it has devastating, far-reaching consequences. And I spoke yesterday, and I brought up the 2 guys that I know killed themselves because of a divorce, ultimately. And so, what further proof do you need to know? No, listen, I'm not against divorce. What I am against is not making an informed decision and making decisions that are emotional in nature. That I am against. Sometimes divorce is the answer. Sometimes it's necessary for both parties to move in different directions, for there to be happiness and growth and all that. And that's fine. But that has to be made intentionally, that decision, and it has to be made from an informed basis.
Yeah.
But what ends up happening, Pat, is we neglect, we don't put the work in, we don't communicate effectively, we don't share, we are not vulnerable with each other, and we create, you and me, we create an environment of wedges that eventually it's just too much to make up.
Yeah, and it's just the nature of the job. Like you said, I agree with you.
If we don't do the hard work of nurturing that relationship, being communicative, caring, having difficult conversations that, for the entirety of my adult life, I never had with my wife.
Yeah, well, it's
right?
me too.
Right?
And
so
this is
it's a lot of areas for us to grow in that regard.
Well, this is what I was talking. I always talk about, getting friends outside of law enforcement and making connections outside of law enforcement. Is this applied to relationships too?
Yeah.
I mean, as far as, you just said, kind of suppressing everything and not being able to talk and open up and wedges and stuff like that. And that's why I tell people, look, and it took me a long time to get there, brother, get friends outside of law enforcement, because you might look at, say, a friend that's a civilian that's not in law enforcement. They have this wonderful marriage. Oh, what can I do? What can maybe I can ask my friend.
Right.
I mean, what do you do to, but we as cops, and I speak for me, my experience as well, we have to make sure on the outside, everything looks perfect. Even though everything is fucking crumbling on the inside, we have to have that facade, that mask, that everything is great until, shit, everything burns down.
Yeah.
And people were like, oh God, I guess
what?
Perfect.
What you said makes perfect sense. And having people in your lives outside of the first responder community, listen, the first responder community, the law enforcement community is fucking crazy.
They are.
Right. And so crazy.
And we eat our own.
We condone unacceptable behavior from each other. We do that. And so when crazy becomes the new normal, man, there is no hope for personal growth or development. And by including people outside of that law enforcement circle of, now you've got friends that don't condone or they put a different set of eyes on a situation. Listen, you're never going to check me for my excessive drinking because you're a fucking drunk too. Yeah. So we both spiral But when we have friends outside of this profession, they can help us redefine what healthy interaction is.
Yeah.
Because
absolutely,
they come from it, they bring a different perspective to the table.
and that is needed.
100%. I never did that though.
Well, I didn't either.
Did right. And it's like, now that I'm retired, I have all these different friends and acquaintances from musicians and entrepreneurs and CEOs and copyright guys and publishers and construction guys. And you're like, oh, yeah, like this is a real world. These are real people. These people aren't assholes. They're not,
No, the majority of people out there are good
great
people.
right?
They're just it's just that percentage that we deal with,
right. And then, you tell them a story and they go, and you don't see anything wrong with it. And then you go,
oh, I guess I should have lightened that up.
Maybe I need to tighten up a little bit. Yeah. Right. Well, because, I think it's important to have that balance. And, we do a good job of, I think, lying to ourselves, right? Oh no, it's just, no, fuck them,
brother.
Fuck them. We're tight. We're good. And
any final thoughts, brother, to the listener out there? First of all, where can they find you? If people don't know how to find John Kelly.
You can email me directly, john@lawenforcementlifecoach.com. The website is
book him now.
Yes, right now. Book me. John@lawenforcementlifecoach.com, lawenforcementlifecoach.com. There are links to the book, Surviving Self-Inflicted Wounds, Deputy's Life of Redemption, podcast. I do some coaching. And you know what my coaching has turned into, brother? It's just me being a big brother, helping people out.
Hey,
man.
That's the way it should be, man.
Man, I spend a fair amount of time doing that. And I'm blessed and grateful to be able to do that. So that's cool.
So a couple things to the cops out there. Found some entertainment. We laughed a lot, but
yeah, man.
They're going through some challenging times right now. I just maybe they're like, oh my God, is this shit ever gonna end? If it's ever gonna let up, the pressure and stuff like that. What would you tell them?
Hey, Pat, I don't want to bring this thing of ours to a fucking screeching halt, man. But I'd be remiss if I didn't touch on the conversation that we had last week.
Absolutely.
My buddy Todd killed himself last Tuesday, and he called me and a bunch of other brothers 20 times. And on those 20 conversations, we walked together and we got him through a cheating spouse, RPO, being Baker acted, losing his job. This community of brothers that he had, he called 20 times. On Tuesday morning, instead of calling 21 times, he ate his gun on his front lawn. And so to my brothers and sisters out there, you say this all the time, Pat, that you're loved. And God damn it, man, there is no world that is better without you in it. Amen. And I know when you're in pain and you've got that amygdala hijacked and you're not thinking fucking clearly, and maybe you're medicating with alcohol and you've just got that fucking attitude, I just would ask you to make one more call. just make one more call.
Amen, brother. I love you, my friend.
Love you too, man.
All
love
right.
you too.
I'll talk to you soon.
Fucker.